Okay, so we are on Unit 2. We're still working on shape for this month. Last week we learned about geometric shapes, and today we're going to be learning about freeform shapes. Okay, so let's check it out. Freeform shapes. Oopsie. So let me turn the volume up on this real quick. Lesson 3 is going to introduce us to freeform shapes, which are shapes that are not geometric. Last time we learned that geometric shapes are shapes that have names like squares, rectangles, and triangles. Artists use freeform shapes to show living things. Okay.
What are some shapes and colors of leaves you have seen?
¿Cuáles son algunas figuras y algunos colores de hojas que han visto?
So let's look at the objectives, okay? So our aesthetic perception is we are going to learn to locate freeform shapes in art and in our environment. That means around you. You're also going to have the option to create a glue and a pastel freeform shape picture or whatever it is that you have at hand. You're also going to be able to recognize some sources from which artists get ideas. So let's check it out a little bit, okay? So we're going to look at two of the shapes. Let's look at the shapes of the animals and the leaves in the pictures, okay? The shape of a living thing is called a freeform shape. This one is called The Equatorial Jungle by Henri Rousseau. And this one is by Hong San Cha, The Red Camellia. Camellia is a flower, okay? Henri Rousseau, the artist of the first painting, he never went to the jungle, but he painted many jungle scenes. And he got his ideas from reading books and visiting a lot of different zoos.
Vamos a observar estas dos pinturas.
Let's look at these two paintings.
Okay, look around you. What are some things that have freeform shapes around your room? So we're going to look at this artwork really closely. It says study both works of art to find freeform shapes. First, let's look at this real quick.
Henri Rousseau.
He was a painter. We just told you that he often would display his work in shows for people to see. He used to work at an office in order to support his wife and 9 children. He never went to school to learn how to do any art. He just did it on his free time, and he taught himself how to paint. Okay, so he liked to create a lot of jungle scenes, maybe like a fantasy, because he never got to go. He never actually went to an exotic place. The plants are inspired by what he saw when he visited the botanical gardens in Paris. The monkeys are modeled on animals that he saw in a book at the Paris Zoo. Doesn't mean that you have to go anywhere to see. You can paint whatever it is in your imagination. You can see it on a postcard, you can see it in a magazine, you can see it on TV, anything that you want to paint. And this artist, let's make sure I pronounced her name right.
Hung Liu.
Oh, I was really wrong.
Hung Liu.
Hung Liu was born in 1948, and she is from China. So she lived her first part of her life there. She received 2 art degrees when she went to college in China. She gave lessons every week on a television show. And then she eventually immigrated to the United States, and she became a professor at a college in California. And so she would use a lot of photographs from Chinese people, and then she would use them and include them in her artwork, and always use some kind of plant or animal in her painting that were traditionally used in Chinese art. So let's check this out. And it says, let's look for freeform shapes. What freeform shapes do you see in here? Remember, it says freeform shapes are things that are not squares, rectangles, or triangles. Living, breathing things. Oh, I see plants. I see lots of plants. What else do you see? Oh, what is that? Do you see creatures in there? I don't know what kind of creature it is, but that's another freeform too. Some kind of creature hiding in the forest. Whoa. in a lot of his paintings, I see some flowers. I see two little hidden things. In some of his paintings, he likes to, there's his name, he likes to create things hidden in his pictures. But I saw two hidden animals, and I see lots of plants. And then let's look at this one. Those are all freeform shapes. And let's look at this one, the red camellia. So what do you see that are freeform shapes? We see flowers are living plants. I see leaves. I see a girl. What are those? I see some different types of birds. See some bamboo plants. So I see lots of freeform shapes in hers also. Very cool. She's a Chinese American artist. Well, let's look again, just in case you're confused about what a freeform shape is. A freeform shape is a shape that's not geometric. It's a leaf, because that's not a square, a rectangle, or a triangle. This is a what? A butterfly or a moth. That is a freeform shape. And then, of course, a splatter or a blob or a puddle, not a square, rectangle, triangle, or an oval, though we call that a freeform shape.
How are freeform shapes different from geometric shapes?
How do you think they're different? Because their edges are
¿En qué
not
se
straight.
diferencian las figuras abstractas de las figuras geométricas?
In geometric shapes, not only do they have names, but the geometric shapes are the same, like on both sides, and they also have straight lines and they have angles. And freeform shapes kind of just have like they're using curvy lines instead of straight lines and angles. Okay? So if you have a magazine, you can look in the magazine and look for some pictures of living things. Can you find other freeform shapes in magazines or books? Think about how this student used freeform shape. This is Jensen Palmer, age 7. He created a big flower and filled up the whole sheet of paper. It looks like a zoomed in version. And then they went back and colored it. And it's not just one color. They filled the whole thing in and didn't leave any white space and filled the whole paper. And it's not a tiny flower. It's a big flower. And artwork looks fantastic and looks really good when you fill the whole paper up and then you color it, just like we would do in our classroom. So, if you wanted to, what freeform shapes did you find? If you were looking in a magazine or in a book, let's say if you could ask your mom and you could go through a magazine, an old magazine, and if you could find a freeform shape in an old magazine, maybe you could take a glue bottle and go around the edges, and when the glue is dry, you could color it with pastels, or you can get a blank sheet of computer paper or construction paper, and you can make a shape like this. So, hold on. Wow. So, this is not a magazine picture, but it's a picture of an owl. And what I could do is I could take my glue bottle and I could make sure you take the dry part off. And I could trace my picture with not a lot of glue. I'm just going over the lines so that it creates texture. I'm going over, and this is an owl. And the owl is a freeform shape. So you could do something like that. If you found a picture in a magazine, or you could do a drawing. And I know it's hard to see, but you go over it with glue. And when the glue dries, you could feel the textures. And you could go in and add some color inside of it, or you could paint inside of it. So here's an example. What a freeform shape did you find? Do you see how this is an example of someone, they drew a flower and they went over it with glue. They had different colored glue. So, but if you can just use regular glue and go over the edge, trace the drawing, and give it an hour to dry, and once it's dry, you can go and color inside of it, just like this. Draw some type of freeform shape. So, if you do create some artwork, you should be able to answer, what did you draw? What kinds of lines did you use to make your freeform shape? Does it look real or not? And did you create a freeform shape with it? Okay, so you are done for lesson 3. If you have a Nearpod lesson on your Canvas, you need to go onto your Nearpod Canvas lesson for lesson 3 and complete the lesson on Nearpod. And it might have some activities that will ask you to show me what a freeform shape is. That way Ms. Camino can check to see if you know what a freeform shape is. If you don't have a video, if you don't have a Nearpod lesson assigned to you and all you have is just a video to watch, lucky you, you don't have to do anything else. You only have to do it if you have a Nearpod lesson in your box on Canvas. And you are done for this week, and the next week we'll see you for lesson 4.